everybody and welcome back to another little Vlogmas video. I hope you're all well. For today's little video I thought I'd do a little like sketch with me video where I do one of my little daily doodles and kind of just talk through what I'm doing. So because it's fairly close to Christmas, I want to kind of do a Christmassy animal. I have already drawn quite a lot of deers and robins and polar bears and stuff like that, so I think today instead I'm going to sit and draw like a little donkey. So yeah, let's get into this video and let's draw a couple of little donkeys in my sketchbook. I'm probably going to draw like a donkey in a few different poses. I'm going to start off just by lightly sketching out a couple of the little donkeys. I'm going to start off by drawing a little donkey whose face is sticking over a fence. I'm going to start off with like a circle just to indicate the face, and then I'll start curving into it and carving out the actual features in a minute. Right, so he has kind of like a top of a head here, and then he's got like, it almost looks like he's got little eyebrows, bless him. So he's got a little eyebrow type line, an eye on this side. Because he's looking over the fence, you can really see his lovely little nose, bless him. He's a cheeky little chappy, this little donkey that I'm referencing. He's like, what are you looking at? Draw the other side of his face, make sure his eyes are in line by drawing like a little curve. When I sit and try and draw animals and stuff, what I tend to do is use other parts of the face to give clues as to where to draw some of the other lines. So if you've got like this eye already drawn in, you know that it's gonna kind of line up in somehow. It might be curved line or it might be like diagonally, but you'll know that it's going to line up on each side. So I use like little clues of areas that I've already drawn. It might be that like there's something in the background which can give me like the idea of proportions and stuff like that. But yeah, when I draw things I try and give myself little clues as to the proportions and stuff like that. Let's draw an actual eye in this, because this is kind of like, this bit around here is a white patch, and then there's like a little eyeball in the middle, and that's going to line up with an eyeball on this side. Let's give him some ears. Maybe start about here, in line up with his head and like a diagonal line-ish. Bit more up, and for another triangle, and to get like the judge of how far away it is, I'm just going to draw a diagonal line like that. So there's like a curved bit, and then it heads back towards that diagonal line. I'm going to say that that's probably placed about there. So his other ear will end up there as well. Brings it down. Don't want it to stick out too far past the eye. His eye is coming from there. Okay, so the ear doesn't come in line with that eye. So don't want to draw anything there. You can always carve back into the shapes once you've got a bit of an idea for all that kind of stuff in the right place. I actually think that songs are really cute looking things. Sometimes they can look a little bit funny, but I think that's what makes them so lovable. I'm trying to tell that they're like little quirky little animals. Right, so let's draw the other side of the head. So that is here. So we don't want that ear right here, so it's kind of like that distance, no more, otherwise it's like too wide. Let's draw this up here coming up, and these bits are in line, and that part there is where it then starts out there, and up again. That's not far, little light patch here. I think I may have done this part of this face a bit too wide, but I'm going to draw the rest of the ear in. Yeah, that's how his face is a little bit too wide. I'm just going to write this now. Oh there. No, I forgot. I'd like to cover up that up with paint in a bit. Oopsie. Right, because I'm going to paint these anyway, so black paint. Look, that's the culprit right there. The big black spot of black paint on my rubber. It's not moving, so it's other woolly fellow. He looks like a Derek to me. Derek the donkey. Need to draw the edge of his rest of his nose where his kind of like mouth bit is. And that's the bottom of the nostril-y, mouthy, nosy thing. There's kind of like a brick wally type thing going on here. And then we start seeing on this side, there's like the edge of his neck. And then on this side, there's also another neck, which I'm just going to draw a line for. It's not quite coming straight down in a vertical line, it's a bit more left at an angle. I think he's looking over a stone wall, bless him. And actually, now that I've started drawing this stone wall in, I think I've drawn this mouth too far down. Let's pull it up a bit on this side. I'm not actually too worried, like 100% too worried about the proportions at the moment, because when I come to paint it, I'll end up correcting some of them anyway using my acrylic paints. It's more about getting a hint of what is there, and then I'll pay a bit more attention when I come to paint it. Work into this eye. One thing I think is always important to get right with animal drawings is actually like the eye and the inside of the pupil, where the light is shining on the eye, because that's what gives them like a little bit of life in them. Derek is coming along nicely. I think sometimes when it helps when you're sketching them out to indicate some of the darker areas and the shading areas. So even though I'm going to do that with paint anyway, when I'm drawing them out, I like to kind of just indicate the darker parts. So the eye is quite a dark part. This part here, there's quite a dark patch. Got something going on in the ear which I need to draw in a minute. So I'm actually going to raise this up a bit higher to make his nose look longer. That needs to come so it's more in line with these little bits here. Give it a shade just because I know that bit is where the edge of his nose is. Shade on this side. I'm not going to use that rubber because I'll end up with another splodge. Let's find a different one. Just going to rub out some of this bit, and actually that then helps because I can then raise this nose up a bit, which is why that bit was looking too low. So this bit needs to come up a bit higher, the little semicircle bit. Semicircle. Okay, and then let's draw some of the details on the nostril area. So like a teardroppy type shape for the nostril, and on this side, sure these eyebrows are fairly in line. I'm calling them eyebrows, don't know if they are actually eyebrows, but they make him look like he's got them, so that's what they're going to be known as. I need to draw his other eye back in again. Dark all the way down here, all along there. That's a very kind of rough idea of that little donkey face. As I say, when I come to paint it, you'll probably find it will change completely different shape, because sometimes when you start adding shading in and highlighting, you kind of notice a few mistakes a bit more. But for now, that's one donkey face. Derek the donkey. Right, anyway, so that's one donkey sketch down. I'll probably come and paint that in a minute. I've obviously got to cover up that. Little donkey carrying Mary, Mary on your way. I'm actually just going to quickly, before I move on, just lower his forehead a bit. That's a bit better. One donkey down. Let's sketch out another little donkey from a different angle, I think. I might try and draw it slightly bigger as well, actually. So let's go for one which is kind of coming along here. Ears, another ear, face, nose, bit more of a body. Right, could leave it like that. Yeah, no, let's work into it. So I'm going to keep this bit here because it's going to be the side of his face. So there's the side of his face. Bring it round, down. Looks a little bit like one of them hand puppets that people used to do. Hold on, where's giraffe? Yeah, it looks a little bit like when people used to do hand puppets. Or is that a rabbit? Right, it's kind of like a little side knobbly bit. Trouble is when I start drawing too much detail into things, they start shrinking. So I kind of don't want to lose like the size of this picture. Doing this part, which is the like the back of his neck where his main bit is. So if this one's Derek, this can be, I don't know. Can't think of any names beginning with D now. I don't know. That might come along when I've finished drawing him. Right, let's get an idea of the bottom of his face. It's more there. So his neck is also kind of about there. If I line it up with his ear. Okay, but I'm going to look at this negative space here so it gives me the idea of where the bottom of his face is. It's kind of that kind of shape. Also lines up with this bit, and also this bit then lines up a bit more with his ear and this edge of this knobbly bit. So that seems about right. Bring the edge of his face down. Draw the other ear. Fairly close to this one. It's obviously ear that's further behind, so it looks a bit smaller. It's not quite coming at a horizontal, but it's going this type of angle. Line upwards. Let's try and get the edge of the face in, and then we can work out where to put his eye. So bring this bit so it's in line with that. Looking forward to adding colour to this little donkey because it's quite big. So I should be able to get quite a bit of like nice bit of detail into him. Right, so this part needs to line up with his nose. So it's like there's like a white patch similar to that bit. Like the bottom of his mouth. Maybe it's a girl donkey and it could be Doris. We'll call her Doris. Doris the donkey. Make his face a bit thinner. It's kind of a rough approximation of her eye. Work into it a bit more in a minute. Right, let's get the side of the nose drawn. So there's kind of like a main bit going on here. Another main down there. The rest of the body starts about there, but it's not actually really in the picture, so I'm not too worried about it. See if I can get this donkey eye looking a bit more like a donkey eye. This type of shape. Donkey nose down here. Again, I'll shade it in. That's Doris. Let's try and get a bit more of a full body donkey into this little sketchbook. So we'll have a head about here, body, leg, tail, ear, neck. Okay, so I think it's probably time to get my paints out. Again, I'm using system-free acrylic paints. So I'm just going to pour out a few different colours. So I think I'm going to start off by using like a little coloured background on it. I tend to use coloured backgrounds just to help me like look at different tones and stuff in it. It's a bit easier than just using a white background. Now, because like donkeys tend to be like greyish colour, I think they tend to look quite nice against like a minty green background. I've just got black on it again. Right, okay, hold on. I'm just going to paint over it, over the black bit in white and over this bit. That bit's gone. Right. Just let that dry out a little bit. So yeah, anyway, because donkeys are kind of like a grey colour, I want to do like a background that will kind of make that colour pop out a little bit. And I think greys always look quite nice about like against minty green colours. I'm going to grab my big wide brush. This is like my little favourite brush, and I'm going to mix up a bit of green and quite a lot of white, like so. That's quite a nice minty colour. Let's just test it on the paper. Oh, I like that. I'll do. So now, so that I can see all the marks underneath, I'm going to mix quite a bit of water into this to make it quite a watery wash colour. That's why I particularly like this brush, is because it's very good at doing big old chunky areas of wash. So yeah, I've added quite a bit of like water into that mix of colour there. And I'm just going to lay a wash of colour down underneath. And that way I can still see the marks that I've made whilst doing the drawing. It helps that I've drawn it quite heavily. I wouldn't usually draw it quite as heavy as this, but I was worried about it showing up on camera, so I kind of pressed a bit harder with my pencil than what I usually do. But it does mean that I can definitely see the lines and stuff that I've made. I'm not worried about being too neat about this background colour because it's not really the focus of the actual painting. But yeah, it kind of just gives me a little background, and it means that when I come to doing the actual painting, it's easier to like tell like the highlights and stuff on a picture. Just about mixed up enough. I might try on this little donkey a slightly different background colour, because sometimes it does make a bit of a difference. Let that dry out a bit more. It doesn't matter that bit's smudged because I'm going to paint over the top of it when it's dry anyway. I just need to let it dry out a bit more. So I'm probably going to paint Doris the donkey first. Just going to get a slightly thinner brush out, and I don't want to go too small because otherwise what will happen is I'll get too focused on adding detail, and I'll kind of want to just block out some colours first of all. So I'm going to go for a slightly smaller brush. It's still like a flat brush, but it's just very good at blocking out areas of shade and stuff like that. And I'm going to start off with the darker areas, I think. I'm not going to use a straight black colour. I'm probably going to mix in a bit of blue, maybe a little bit of red, not too much. I'm going to just go in with my brush, and I'm just going to paint behind little cheek area or the back of the head. Don't really know what it is, but it's an area. Where else is quite dark? This part of the face is quite a dark colour. There's quite a dark area here. There's a brownier, reddier dark area just near the ear. Oh, it is actually the ear. It's this bit here. But it's definitely reddier than that, so I added a bit of red in and a bit of the brown. I'm going to mix a bit of blue and a little bit of black to make quite a dark colour, because this part of the ear is quite dark. I'm going to hold my brush at this type of angle so that I get a bit of a straighter line, and then pull it round. Any other really particular dark areas? There's quite a lot, but I kind of want to do the lighter tones and then add in the darker tones afterwards. It's a little bit hard to describe when my painting because I'm a little bit scatty. I start off quite methodical and then I get distracted by other areas. This part here is dark, but it's not quite as dark as that, so I'm going to add in a bit of white, a bit more white still to that colour that I've just made, and try and blend it in with the darker colour. It's very gradual. I am just going to switch to an even smaller brush, because where this bit here I'm going to start doing a bit more detail. This bit there's like it's almost like there's a line drawing down. Kind of a line joining the nose to the eye. Might use my finger to smudge it in a bit. Now there's quite a light bluey line just coming down the front of the face. It is really light. It's obviously where the light is just hitting the outline of the fur. Down this bit, up here, kind of giving the outline of the side of the face, and then this part here is really white. So I'm going to go in straight white there. I can always tone it down with a colour later on. As soon as I've got my whitey, bluey grey colour, just going to work into the nose. That is a bit too blue. I'm going to work over it again with some white in a minute. Let me just block out the shape for now with this, and then I can always lighten it in a minute. It's a lovely thing about acrylics is you can layer other colours on top. Let's get this nose back in from the smudgy area. Let's really lighten this bit up a bit more. I'm going to keep it the bluey shade and then kind of working with some pinks in a minute. That's a bit better. That's definitely a lot lighter. Still not like a perfect straight white because it's got like little hints of blue and pink and purple in it actually. And then add some even more white in. Probably paint the nostrils back in. Quite grey near around the mouth bit, and then it gets quite dark as you go towards the mouth. But let me just paint the rest of this nose in. So I'm going to put a bit of like a bluey greeny, very light turquoisey bluey greeny colour here. Let's go here. That's not quite white enough actually, so I'll add a bit more white in a minute. Actually, I'll probably add some more white in when I use my finer brush, because I'm just going to remember and try not to get too carried away with details at the moment. So I'm going to mix this bluey greeny colour into the purpley grey. Start making a gradient between these bits, and then it starts to get darker again just as it heads towards the eye. Again, I can use my finger to smudge out some colours and make a gradient. Use that similar bluey grey colour for this bit down here. but then it gets dark very quickly, so then add that in. I'm trying not to make it all like completely one grey. It's like it's got quite a little bits, hints of blue and purple and turquoisey green and stuff in, and I like to have little hints of different colours in. I think hints of different colours give it a bit more of a life about it. And it's a very good way of showing texture and fur and stuff like that. I'm going to use like a browny grey just to indicate this area a little bit more. At the side of the cheeks. So I'm now kind of even though I'm blocking out colours still, I'm still kind of like correcting other colours and layering different colours on top to lighten areas and darken areas and stuff like that. Just kind of working more into things. So I'm going to make this a bit lighter, for example. Re-put in a mouth down here where I covered up when I smudged everything. That smudgy bit now makes it look like he's looking over a fence. In fact, I'm just going to draw the fence lines in like that. Just going to go back to my big chisely brush again. Not the biggest one, but the medium chisely brush. Paint this bit in. Felt like I was getting too hung up on a few little details, so if I switch brush, kind of loosens back up again, blocking out colours, and then I'll go back in with the detailing stuff in a minute. Painting always seems to be about putting stuff down, painting over the top, taking stuff away, re-putting it on, or at least the way I do anyway. Very, very layery. Anyway, that's a definite underneath layer. There's still a lot of work to do. I need to draw these nostrils in, but I'm going to change my brush again to like a slightly thinner one, and then I'm going to draw these nostrils in. It's like a little line thing, nostril about here. Quickly work on the base layer of this one, and then I'll probably come back to that one. Okay, so I have just been working on Derek and Doris a little bit using my little, let me get them out again, my little water soluble pencils, and basically I've just been kind of like toning down some of the areas and like adding a bit of colour here and there and just layering on different tones and stuff like that. They still need to have a little bit of like texture added to them, and I still need to work on adding a few more like highlights and fur details and stuff like that. But I think what I want to do is actually move on to painting Deb, because I think he's feeling a little bit left out over here. Now I think for Deb, I think what I want to do is actually paint him a slightly different background colour. So obviously I used quite a minty green on this one, so I think for Deb I might paint him like, keep it to like a Christmas theme, so it's like a reddy colour, but maybe like a reddy bluey, like dark purpley reddy colour. Let me just mix up a few paints and see if I can find the colour that I like, because I like to sometimes what difference like a background colour can make to the actual overall image. So I'm going to need some more red. I might end up having to cut this tube actually. Can I get any more red out of this tube? Oh yeah, okay. That's alright, that didn't end up too badly. Let's get my big chunky brush out that I like, my big chunky flat brush. This one here. I'm going to start off with a bit of blue. Okay, I'm going to mix in a little bit of the red. It's a bit hard to tell if it's the colour that I actually want on this because it's already a red board, but we'll have a look skis. Maybe a bit of white. Oh, that's looking more like it. Oh yeah, I like that colour. Right, okay, I'm going to mix in a bit of water to it. If I had watercolour paint, I probably wouldn't have to worry about mixing so much water into this base colour, but I mix quite a bit in when I'm using acrylic just so that I can see my lines. Right, let's get this painted. Nice even strokes. Let me just move this so I can actually do some nice even strokes on the background. Right, I think I'm going to get my pencils out again, and I'm basically going to do a similar thing to do what I've done with these two, where I use it to change colours of things and add shade into areas and add a bit more detail to areas and stuff like that. I think I'm going to start with this bit here because it needs to be a lot darker. Let me find a colour that I like. Make this bit quite a bit darker with the edge of the leg. I'm kind of doing like a little swirly motion or scribbly motion because I kind of want to leave some of the colours that I've already applied through the paint showing through. So this at some stage what I'll probably do is keep switching between the colours and the paints. So I might lay down a little bit of colour with the pencil and then perhaps use a bit of white paint to lighten the colour. Oh, I haven't actually painted the ears on. So I can use my pencils. Always forget the ears. I don't know what it is about me and ears. I just because I don't like painting them, I just for as long as possible. Change over to a slightly different colour. So I'm going to take some of the white out of this bit so it's only really like a little bit, but then I might have taken out a bit too much there. So this is where I'm going to switch back to my paint, work it back in again, and then I'll probably rework in again with the pencil and stuff like that. So I'm just going to use my pencil to spread out some of the white. Quite a quick little way of indicating some fur texture as well doing this. Because I've used these so much, all the pencil names are covered in paint. I think I am done for today's little sketching session. So I managed to sketch out 3 tiny little donkeys. So we've got Derek the donkey, Doris, and I keep forgetting his name, Dev the donkey. I think they turned out quite nicely. I like the fact that this one is very, very colourful and very, very like a little bit less like the reference, but very, very, very colourful and pretty. I just like the pretty colours in it basically. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave a comment in the section below which donkey is your favourite and whether you'd like to see any more of these style videos, and if so what type of animals you'd like me to draw, and what type of things you want me to answer when I'm drawing them, because not gonna lie, I kind of ran out of things to say. See you again soon. Thank you.